economists in the real estate field with us today. And there's a difference between, like I was talking to Melody about, a lot of us never leave the house. We just rely on the stats that we get, and we don't take the effort to go out and really investigate a lot of things. And Melody, welcome back. And I read about your trip. So, what I'm very interested in is where is the edge from going out there and taking your time and going traveling to see all these different localities compared to just looking at the numbers that the government supplies and real estate people supply. What did you find out on that trip besides having fun?
Well, Dale, what I found out is that, we can't rely on any of this data, which is just something that I've known since my first trip in 2023. But when you do these trips, you really get to see what's going on out there versus what Bloomberg is telling you, Wall Street
Right.
Journal is telling you. And I don't know if you feel the same, but I feel like we are being assaulted in the media right now with just so much noise. And so it makes it impossible to really understand what's going on. And so when you go out there, you can talk to real humans who have a much better idea of what's really happening than what we see in the media. But then you can also just see, I did a secret shopper trip to a location that I think is going to be the center of many books about this bubble. And
Okay.
they're just lying, Dale. They're lying. When you give them the actual, data, they just lie and say, no, that's not true. And so they're just selling, selling, selling. And so I've come to the conclusion that, we're kind of being sold that the economy is doing better than it is. And so we can't trust a lot of this data, unfortunately. And so I think that's the edge, is that you're more grounded
Yeah.
in reality.
Yeah.
So,
So, what did you discover that you didn't know before you left?
well, I think what's so oddly, I think that it's more that I have to rediscover it, Dale. And I don't know if that makes sense because you get back behind your desk and you
Right.
start thinking you're crazy and you start thinking you didn't see what you saw. And so in reality, I'm just now to the point that I'm confirming everything that I have learned and researched. And, you might not have gotten to my last Substack, but I just caught Redfin doing a real dirty trick and restating home prices going back to 2012 lower.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but why do I know, Dell? Because why did I know to look at these Redfin numbers the way that I did? Because I had gone out already and realized they didn't have all the information. And so I had to try and understand why that was. So it's like that doing those trips gives you the ability to come back to your desk and get closer to the truth of what's really going on.
Okay. Well, this is,
I'm
they
a
say it take,
housing conspiracy theorist, I guess.
yeah. Well, it takes a long time to turn around an aircraft carrier,
That's right.
as you can tell by what's happening near the strait. It takes a
Right.
long time
That's
to
right.
go, a long time to go home.
That's
So,
right.
this is kind of a slow motion type train wreck that
Yes.
there's a lot of denial
Yes.
across the board, and you're saying a lot of hype, which extends into all markets. I mean,
Right.
if you're a trader in S&Ps and anything else, we have tweets. We have to always be on guard for what's the next tweet.
Right.
What has accelerated
Mm.
since the last time we talked about 3 months ago?
Well, definitely price declines. And so a couple of things have. So price declines and delinquency. So price declines, this is the season that even in the worst months of the crisis, you have seasonal firming in the housing market
Yeah,
because that who's transacting can transact. So you're seeing a little bit of that, but we're getting little signals here and there in a lot of these data series like Case Shiller, and just like the lowest year over year increase recently that we've seen since 2023. The Freddie Mac Home Price Index, kind of the same thing, had a really weird anomaly
Yeah.
between February and March that the only time you'd ever seen before was like in 95, 96, 2007 and 8. So we're starting to see those prices come down. And so on a national level, it looks like they're slowing, but in many areas, Dale, they are in full year-over-year decline. 33 of my the cities that I track, 85, had year-over-year price declines using the new Redfin data, which is a 3-month rolling average. So that tells you that's even, I mean, we're in the season, and that's far more than we had last year at this time.
Okay. So a couple of things have happened since we last talked, and I'm wondering if you think that it's only going to exacerbate what was happening prior. First of all, the oil shock
Right,
that may not really hit us until the summer or fall
right,
because of supply chains,
right.
and we also have a new Fed chairman.
Yes.
So let me ask you first about the oil shock.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you were in real estate or what you were doing in the 70s during the oil embargo. You were probably in kindergarten or something like that, or a baby, or not even born yet.
I was
But
born.
oh, okay. Well, uh, what do you think this is going to do to your thesis? I would think that it only weakens and lowers confidence of people willing to make big purchases like homes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so what it's doing, and you can see it. So in September, we definitely saw some worsening signs all across the economy, in my opinion. But this really went on steroids in April, March and
Yeah,
April. And so, what I had hoped, what I'd really hoped, Dale, and I'm like one of the only housing analysts out there that feels this way, that's on the bear side, is I wanted to see lower rates because I thought we could get some of those marginal buyers into the market who are going to negotiate, because that's what you're seeing now. What those sellers are just being so stubborn. So, but no, now we have higher rates. We
r-
got below 6 for like
right.
30 seconds. And so that's just making it even more difficult to kind of get that price discovery, to be honest. And so that we're actually seeing, I can now give you like examples all over the place that if sales are lower, prices are higher. If sales are higher, prices are lower. And this is happening in places like San Jose, California. They've had a lot of layoffs out of there.
Right.
Boston, a lot of motivated selling. So yeah, this just makes everything worse. It could slow down actually the price discovery, believe it or not, because we really won't get those people, those buyers that can do it. But here's what's going to happen in the fall, Dale. I'm sorry, I forgot to say about the delinquency, is that not only are we seeing, high FHA delinquency, but I have now seen 2 months in a row in my client books, the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac prime books come under get that 30-day delinquency increase. And now there's ways that they get around telling you this. I mean, I pull apart their quotes, but this is, if you're in mortgage, this is not what you want to see. So on top of all those FHAs that are just kind of building up right now, they're failing the trial plans after that, those limitations went on the program. They will hit the foreclosure pipeline in Q4, Q1. And so that's then going to accelerate that price discovery if we don't get any kind of relief from here on the rates.
Okay. Well, perhaps our new Fed chairman, which I've been reading about his game plan, that they want to have an accord between the Fed and the Treasury, and they're going to break out a World War II playbook for the U.S. and what Japan has been doing or did before this recent bout, yield curve control.
Mm.
Maybe that will help price discovery if what they do in yield curve control is they just peg the long-term rate. Okay, and normally the currency gets killed in a situation like that because people want to get paid more to hold debt,
Yeah,
especially sovereigns with the kind of debt that we have.
right.
So perhaps yield curve control will do it. And I read about something that I'm sure you know. I'm not exactly sure, but there was this commercial real estate fund that I think it was either JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley that I think was a commercial real estate
Yeah,
fund.
yeah, it was
That
JP Morgan.
okay,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
survived '08.
Distressed asset. It was one of those
Right,
funds
yeah,
started right after the crisis. Yeah. Mhm.
right. So it survived the housing crisis. It survived COVID, and now they're closing it, and it's going to
Yeah.
take 3 years
Yeah. To
for
unwind it.
people, yeah,
Mm.
for people to get their money out. So
Yeah.
do you consider that pretty symptomatic? That's a pretty big
Oh,
signal.
yeah. And Dell, I've always said that the commercial and the residential are inextricably linked, and they are, because a lot of your home building was built on promises of tech coming to certain places, things like that. But I've also been recently digging into commercial real estate, into these securitizations and into the multifamily securitizations. I mean, we are in so much trouble, Dale. Like you can only laugh. And unfortunately, so let me just give you a quick example. All we get all of our information about these industries from the people that have a vested interest in selling it one way. Recently, I just discovered, that Real Pages was showing one occupancy number in the 90s for one of these properties in the securitization. Meanwhile, you go to the Freddie performance data and it was in the 60s. And so we're just being lied to full scale on what's going on, but it's coming. And to me, what happened to JP Morgan, that is an actual real signal of what's to come.
Okay, so really, I would say since there's not a lot of wealth being created in real estate right now,
That's right.
let me ask you, can people still tap home equity in any way? And are people doing it?
Well, so they just came out with this new credit score, the new Vantage score, and that they're going to try to get the last, because unfortunately, as you know, what happened is all these student loan borrowers had not been
Right.
paying and they weren't reported to credit. And so the people that really need to access these things can't. But they're going to try, as I call this one the 2010 playbook. They'll come in. This Vantage score is going to get the last folks, poor. I mean, it's just tapping the ATM, again. And unfortunately, that's going to crush them because prices aren't going down in terms of taxes and insurance. But yeah, they're going to try that, but it didn't work in 2010 either. I mean, and so I call
Yeah.
it, it's like a refi boomlet, but that's even come to a screeching halt. Like we were seeing some movement there, but
Right.
now it's all retreated.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, this is the key. Um, some people are saying that we might have a bond bottom here. I don't, I'm not sure.
Right.
I want to see what happens on this next sell-off, but short-term rates to me look like the 10-year could still go for 5%. So I don't know how you could buy the long end if that's a
I,
possibility.
yeah. And, and I'm just watching what's happening, right? And I'm watching what's happening to the 10-year. And there's a lot of folks that think this thing's coming down, like,
Yeah,
aggressively. And they've been thinking that for 3 years too, by the way. Like, and I just don't know that that's what's next based on some of the structural issues we have in the bond market and then what's going on geopolitically. So I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say uh, the last bastion of harvesting out there for the effluent is equities.
Right.
So if there is, and I'm looking for a correction, but I don't think we top until maybe the fall. I think we could pull
Yeah.
back, maybe
Yeah.
halfway from this big rally we had in April down here.
That's
But it,
insane looking at that, isn't it?
yeah, it's a parabolic advance, and if you look at the semis, it's even more extreme. So my opinion is that before we really see the big plunge in real estate is that this bull market has to end. Is that a factor that you think about?
Well, I think it is only from a sentiment perspective. Like the facts
Okay,
are the facts. Like nobody can afford these homes. Like that's just the
okay,
math. But the
right,
sentiment has to change for the folks who own the homes. Unfortunately, the boomers to sell. They have to sell. Right now, they're holding on. But so
yeah,
I think that if it didn't happen, we would just continue to see a frozen housing market until, something else, some other catalyst really cracked it. But I agree that I think we do need some sort of correction because it will change people's sentiment and they'll feel motivated to list those homes. But I'm hearing, I mean, places like Boston, the inventory increases are actually insane. And so again, just to emphasize, like that's low owner occupancy there. What does that mean? It means a lot of investors in that market, and
Right.
they've raised property taxes double digits 2 years in a row. And so people have to get out. So, it's going to happen. It could just be a lot slower. If we had some kind of correction, I think it would accelerate it.
Okay, well, when you think about government, their timing is always the worst. I mean,
Yes.
we don't fill up our strategic petroleum reserve when prices are cheap, and then after a big rally, we decide we're going to do it. But hasn't there been talk of or legislation passed about large institutions not being able to keep acquiring single-family housing? That has come across, it's out there.
Well, yeah, it's the Road to Housing Act. The Senate finally passed another bill, I think, or I'll probably get it backwards, but it's still stuck. I think there is that executive order already on the institutional investors, but they're trying to get a bill. But Dale, it's not the institutionals; it's the mom and pops. It's the people that own like 15 to 30. I mean that
Yeah.
or even 300, and I know someone down in Florida, he's really big into this investor community in housing, and he's talking to people that are saying, well, I'm going to list my 300 properties
Wow. Yeah.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
like that. And so that's the tsunami that I have seen out on the horizon, for so long, and it has been coming to shore. The minute that mentality shifts in mass, and it's happening, I'm hearing about it from the investor community, then you're really going to start to see the inventory just come in, and it's going to blow people away. And believe it or not, I think the Northeast is probably going to be worse off than everywhere else because the denial has just been so bad there.
Okay. Well, I'm just find it very funny, actually, that the government is going to increase supply right at the time that the market is under pressure.
Right.
I mean, anyway, I find that pretty ironic when they should
Yeah.
have been doing it during COVID
Yeah.
or
Well,
or after the housing crisis, so that homeowners did not become tenants.
Well, they should have just let the market correct, Dale. And I know, so a lot of people are going to say, wait, it did. I said, no, it actually really didn't. And the reason it didn't correct is because Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, they all went to the institutions and said, please buy these homes. Like this is
Yeah,
this. And that's what happened. And so we've just extended and pretended, just like that JP Morgan asset fund. This has
right.
been one big extend and pretend since the last crisis, and we never fully corrected. And I think that's what's going to happen. It's just it could take a very long time, but it also could go a lot faster than people expect. I mean, we don't know. There's too much is happening right now to be able to make calls like that.
And in a general sense, would you say, I think the industry says that real estate is about 20% of the economy and
Yeah.
related. So that's a big sector.
It's huge. It has, I mean, and every time, where do they go, Dale? Every time they need to try and stimulate it, they've gone to the housing market since the 80s. And so it's just not working because no one can afford this anymore. And so it's a real signal when Redfin, who at the end of in 2012, when they really got started, they were selling themselves as truth tellers because NAR, National Association for Realtors, had gotten caught lying about home sales, and had to restate all their numbers. And so they were supposed to be the real deal. And now for them to revise all of that history, and the average revision is $44,000 lower
Okay.
average since 2012. And so you're now looking, they had a 476, I think, or 467 median home price in March with
Yeah.
their old data set. It was 380 in their new data set. That's
Well,
insane. And so,
yeah.
it's as, and that had already happened at the census when they revised their peak in the new homes. So anyway, this is all coming.
Okay.
It's it's taking forever, as we all know this can do. So yeah.
Do you have plans besides informing people like you have been the last couple of years when they could have done something before this really manifested in a big way? How are you looking for yourself to capitalize on this crisis that you see coming?
So I know I'm weird, but this really is about education. Because you
Okay.
asked what was I doing in the 70s? Well, in the early 80s, my family lost our home to foreclosure because of what was happening in the
Yeah.
economy.
Yeah.
And so I want to help others who might get in that situation, because I see it as very destructive on the family. And so
Oh, yeah.
really it is my purpose just to tell people what I see, what's going on, and I want them to have the tools to make good financial choices for themselves. And then I just kind of look to God, Dale, for everything else, for my daily provision. So,
Oh, okay. Amen, Melody. And there's nothing more unsettling than not knowing where you're going to live.
oh,
I think it's really remarkable that you want to be of service and pay it forward. And it's also very interesting that um, people um, in their homes, it's their sanctuary. And that's where they go to get away from the world. And that's where, this is going to be a very disruptive thing for so many families.
yes.
I'm concerned because you think this is even going to be more dramatic and on steroids compared to the last housing crisis.
Unless we all figure out how to get higher paying jobs, like that's it. Like, or the UFOs come and need a house, like
Yeah,
and that's a joke, but I'm just saying, like,
I
I don't,
love it.
yeah, I don't there's nothing. And you really, when you try to game theory this out of what could stop it, I mean, it's only like some cataclysmic situation, honestly. Like when you look at and then the positive, like I just can't see anywhere in the economy right now where we're building the types of jobs that would make it affordable for our younger Americans. Like I
Yeah, it's
just
the other
don't see
way
that.
with
Exactly.
AI. It's
Right.
the other way. So there's job destruction.
Right.
It
Right.
really sounds like the perfect storm.
It's, I mean,
Yeah,
I only laugh because otherwise I'd be crying. But yes, and we didn't have to do it. That's what's so frustrating. Like we could have used that money, that COVID money, to do all kinds of projects that we need in this country. Our infrastructure is failing, and that's the other thing I see when I go out on the road is just how bad it really is. And so that's the disappointing thing about all this. We could have been doing something about that and been giving people jobs to do that as well.
so Melody on her mission,
I
and
guess.
I think it's a great mission, and I do believe that it's important. And this is your biggest asset, right? Your home. Everyone that's hearing us, it's still your biggest asset, even if we're into price declines. And I think that it's going to be important to follow Melody, and Melody is the type of person that you could probably contact and have a conversation with. So,
That's right.
it's because she cares. Okay,
Yes.
so you can tell that this is she doesn't have a big axe to grind and trying to get you to, pay consulting fees, but you need to be aware if you live through '08 to 2010, you want to be prepared for 2026 and 2027.
That's right.
And I can't think of anyone better when it comes to housing to stay informed and know what's happening and makes the effort to travel all over the country to get, this is like gumshoe reporting that people used to do. It's old school, but I
Hmm.
don't think it could be replaced
I don't either.
even by AI.
That's correct. I don't either.
Okay,
I don't
so
either.
Melody, it was great talking to you again. Thanks for being straight with the public and being a watchman over all the hype that's out there so that people could see the difference between how they're being manipulated and what reality is.
Thank you so
Thank
much, Dale.
Okay, Melody Wright, everybody, follow her and check it out and be aware of your largest asset. Maybe it's Micron now because it's gone up 40-fold. Maybe it's worth more than your house, but pay attention to what she has to say. I do.
Thank you.
Well, Melody Wright, everybody. The video will be out shortly. Everyone have a great day. And remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. Adios.